Hi guys, it's Traci Lynn Cowan. We are live here with Hollywood Vibe Entertainment. We are here at Team Karate Centers, a beautiful gym, and with us we have Sensei Benny the Jet.
Yeah, anyway, it's good to be in the moment, as they say.
Absolutely. What an absolute honor it is to be sitting with you. A beautiful person inside and out. The spirituality aspect of you, I really, really, really appreciate. And we all know, you're a world-class fighter, kickboxer, martial artist, stuntman, the most sought-after fight choreographer in the action acting industry. So, I mean, you've pretty much done it all, Benny.
In the first half of my life, I've done quite a bit. As they say, I've done more than 3 lifetimes already at this time, but the best is yet to come.
Ooh,
my second half is like the first half of my life, I was learning pain. The second half of my life, I'm learning to heal pain. So it's in a different realm at this point in time of my life right now as we're talking, that I'm learning, as they say, mastering myself. Instead of mastering something, I'm mastering me first before I can master or go into mastery, as they say.
Absolutely. How does a man like Benny the Jet heal and learn how to master the pain?
Well, again, growing up, I come from a family of, there's 9 black belts in my family. My father was a professional boxer. My mother was a professional wrestler. For entertainment in my house, we fought, and so forth. And so in that, my mother is a very spiritual warrior. My father is a very external, very physical boxer. And so I had the best of both sides. And so I give you a little example. I would go in the living room and my father would be watching boxing on TV, and I sit down, he hit me in the head, look at this, and I said, oh, okay, I got it. And then I would go in the kitchen and my mom will actually hold me, and she'll hold me and says, and explain, this is how my father shows his love, because verbally he doesn't know how to show it, so he shows it in that way. And so I had good balance between external and internal and as I was growing up. So in the fight game, when kids at 3 years old had fire trucks, I had boxing gloves. So in '58 was my first boxing, Pee Wee division boxing fight, and in '69 I started judo and I started competing. Yeah. So I have a lot of experience with internal emotions, with internal insight. So in my life, I've always been into the fight of, or should I say, the warfare of mental warfare, physical warfare, spiritual warfare. I've always been in some type of warfare, whether it be external or internal. And because I have 4 sisters, and my mother being very spiritual, it was between my mother, my sisters, and my wife. All of them. I mean, they've taught me the opposite side of emotions between a female energy and a male energy. So I can say that I was pretty balanced.
It sounds like it. And I love what you've said, in many different, videos I've seen and interviews of you, where it's about managing and balancing the emotions. How do you find a man like yourself would balance and manage emotions?
Well, it's, again, first of all, I come from a big family, and coming from a poor side of family, it's like for me to come out of my house, hey, I would have to look out of my curtain to see if it was safe enough to come out. And coming out, by the time my elementary school was behind us, so from my house to going to the school, just right across the street, I was already in a fight. So in that, it was like fighting for survival. And fighting for survival was that element of energy that came right up since I was young. And so I had a lot of opportunity to experience And so experience this type of energy that attacks deep inside. I had a lot of time to recognize what was going on within me. And sometimes, again, it's like, usually fathers say, don't cry, it shows weakness. Don't show you're afraid, they'll take advantage of you. Don't show. So, actually, me and my brothers were taught to hide all that emotion, because showing it was weak. So we didn't show that emotion, and we hid it. And most boys are taught by their fathers not to show emotions. And so we hide that all the way up. And so by the time we're 12 years old, 13 years old, teenagers, we see a girl crying, and we're already telling them, come on, don't cry, everybody's watching, you're stronger than that. And why? Not because we're trying to help them, because it makes us feel uncomfortable. And basically what it's all about is about what we feel. And so we sometimes use external outside stuff to make that excuse that why you shouldn't do certain things. And so that's a program. And that's the way most been programmed. Girls been programmed in a different way. And but a lot of girls that I know, young girls, were taught also that I've recognized, you got to be tougher, you got to be stronger. If you're going to survive in this world, you want to compete with the boys, with the guys, with the whatever, you got to be stronger. And so I recognize teaching, and I've always been into the teaching part. Even when I was a kid, I was teaching other kids. So I had an opportunity to learn as a young boy, to be able to understand emotions. And being demonstration, we used to go in demonstrations, my brothers and my sister, we used to do demonstrations for a lot of these kids that are in foster homes, kids are, in juvenile hall. We would go and do, and I was just a kid myself, and I don't know how they, tamed me, but but at the same time, but we used to go out there and actually do demonstrations and help these kids that are from single parent kids, that are that been home by themselves while the parent is out there working. And so I grew up fast. And so to really have a childhood, to tell you the truth, I don't know if I ever had one, because I've always been to a point where I'm always helping somebody out as a kid, helping other kids. So I think that it was embedded in me, should I say programmed in me, by my mother, my oldest brothers and so forth, to help the community and help them out of it. And so I think maybe I was just a teacher all along. I came in this world as a teacher. You are definitely a teacher, and you obviously can understand that, and us, can also see that, being an outsider looking in, going, wow, I mean, this man was put on this planet not only to, to be an extreme athlete and provide all these platforms for people, but you're teaching and coaching and in being here in this gym and stuff. I mean, you absolutely have so many people that look up to you. I mean, I can only say, if I could remember who all said to say hello to you today, I would say it, but I can't because it's so many people that you've impacted their lives. Hello to all those that are saying so hello? I said it, guys. Yes, right. She passed the word. I passed it on. So I like to know then, so coming from a background like that, and it was pretty rough and tough, and also having professional boxing as a father and professional wrestler as a mother, did you get into martial arts and boxing and kickboxing because to defend yourself more than anything, or was it the passion for the sport, or a combination of all of them? Actually, my oldest brother Arnold started Kempo karate, and he started with Bill Rozaki. And me, I didn't want to do karate. I wanted to box. And at that time, I was doing judo. So I wanted to box and do judo, and that was my first two disciplines. And because I guess I was just too hard to handle as a kid, I was one of those that my mother would be, get off that ice box, get off that roof, you know. And I'm one of those that would be, I would go to a tree and climb to where the twig was just a half inch, just to see if I can do it.
Yeah.
And I was always challenging myself, and it was very hard to control me. And I just had so much energy as a kid, and finally my mother said, you are moving with, you know, and so I ended up moving with my oldest brother, because my oldest brother was the only one that can handle me.
Okay.
And so I ended up moving with my oldest brother, and he was taking karate, and he said, you're going to go, and he was going to take me to karate to give me some discipline, and I would fight. I would scream and cry, no, I don't want to go, I don't want to go. And he would take me and actually grab me by the shirt, throw me in the car, say, shut up, you're going. And he would drag me. And then finally I got to one day, I said, okay, I'm going to train so hard, I'm going to beat you up, you know? And that's what I was thinking. I said, I'm going to train so hard that I'm going to get so good that I'm going to beat him up. And when I got in there, Birazaki was looking at me, and he just shook his head. He said, this kid is, you know, uncontrollable. And so my oldest brother said, he needs discipline here, and I need for, you know, to help me with him.
Yeah.
So every time I did something wrong, meaning I would hurt the kids, because I was already a good boxer, so I would hit them, make them cry, and their parents would complain to Sensei Bill, and Sensei Bill will have me washing the, you know, the windows and the mirrors, and it seems like I said, are you going to teach me karate, or this is wipe on, wipe off, or what, you know? And so as a kid, I was constantly cleaning the gym because I was always in trouble, and so I think in studying the art, I did it because I was angry that my brother forced me to go.
Okay.
And then I started to like it. Then I started to like, okay, well, this is pretty good. And then the worst part about it is I started getting too much attention. That was the worst thing they could have did to me, is he started giving me attention because I started getting so good. And when I started to compete as a kid, I would stop the whole tournament. The whole tournament will stop to watch me fight, because they said, is this kid a midget? You know, because they had no idea. They thought I was a little man, you know. So they actually nicknamed me Little Big Man, because I was just 7 years old, 8 years old, making these kids cry and stuff. And I was just ahead of my time. I came in this world as a warrior.
Yes.
And you know what? And it was so natural for me to go out there. I had no fear. Even as a kid, I had no fear. You know, for me to be climbing these trees and jumping off houses, acting, you know, crazy, I never thought about hurting myself, and I never thought about dying, because it never entered my head. I was just one of those crazy kids to handle, you know, and constantly, I was constantly in the corner. Okay, what else can I do, you know? And so I was always looking for something to, my mind just kept on going, you know? I was always looking at something, I said, how come they don't do this? How come they don't do that? And you know, it's constantly in the head. Pop me in the head, shh, quiet. And I'm constantly getting popped in the head, because my mind, I couldn't stay still long enough. My mind would just kept on going and going, and I was so curious about things. How come they're doing that? Why don't they do this? How come they don't bring this and this and this? And they just kept on saying, shut up. But that was my energy. So by the time I was 10 years old, my sister, I have 4 sisters, and they were telling me about girls and energy. I said, what do I care about girls? I'm 10 years old. I don't care about girls. You know, what I care about is I want to fight. Yeah. And so the first time, I think I was 10 and a half, she took me to go and get a manicure. I cried. No, I don't want to go get a manicure, this and that.
Too girly?
Yeah, and I was so embarrassed. I was crying, but my sisters made me go and get a manicure. And I said, what do I need to get a manicure for? I mean, nobody's going to look at my feet. Why, you know, nobody look at my feet. And besides, I'm on the mat. So why do they have to look at my feet? Why do they have to do that? And so when they did that, they took all my callus off my feet. And the water was black from taking all the, my callus was at least, and they took it, they took the, whatever it was, they scraped all this off, and I would have to walk on my feet sideways because my feet was hurting so sensitive.
Yes.
And I cried through the whole thing. I said, I don't want to go. And then I made them promise not to tell anybody.
So, did they keep their word?
They did. But by the time I was 14, I was the first black belt in the world, because in 60s you had to be 18 years old to even train for black belt. So because I was hurting all the kids, making them cry, everybody was complaining, and everybody, Mr. Parker, all of them, they all gave me my test for my black belt, and I was the first black belt ever as a kid. Now I go to the internationals. I'm 14 years old. I got my black belt. I'm the only kid with a black belt. And so I go to 14-year-olds, and I'm all proud. And their son, they're looking at me, they're saying, "What are you doing?" I said, "I'm 14. This is my category." And they said, "No, you're Shodan. You go over there." And I said, No. I'm 14. This is mine." And they said, "No, you're a black belt. Go over there." And now I'm looking at Chuck Norris. I'm looking at Joe Louis, Skipper Mullins. I'm looking at all these guys. I said, "Oh my, I can't go and fight against them. They're men." And they said, "No, you're a black belt. Go." So I go. I put my head down and my tail between my legs, and I go over there. And then they're all rubbing my head like a cute kid. "Oh, you're a cute kid, right?" I'm the cute kid. And then that tournament, I beat everybody.
Yeah, you were a cute kid for a minute.
And then the next time I came, I was still the cute kid. I beat everybody again. The third time, they all came next to me and they said, "You want to see what it is to be a black belt, huh?" And I saw it in their eyes. I said, "They're coming after me." And every one of them did. They wanted to show me what it would be like to be a black belt. And they said they didn't care now I was a kid no more. Now they say, "You're a black belt." Yeah. They were no looking at me as a kid because I was the first kid to have a black belt. And after the second time I beat the tournament, they said, "Okay, now they're looking at me as a black belt, and they're saying, you're no longer a kid.
Yes.
You're a black belt." And let me tell you, I beat them, and they came after me. Oh, let me tell you. I mean, I ran out of the ring, and they still came after me. I said, "Oh my God." One actually took me up the bleachers. Just, he just wanted to show me. He was from New York. His name was Louis DeGato. Okay. And he just grabbed me, took me up the bleachers, striking me, and I'm striking him back, going up the bleachers. And finally they stopped us. But I think that at 14, because I was always in the limelight, that my head was getting big because I was getting so much attention at 14 years old, being the first kid black belt. And then so other kids started saying, "Why can't I get my black belt? He got his black belt." So then it became a big problem with all the other dojos saying, "What are we going to do? He's 14. He's got his black belt. This kid here has been training for a long time, and he's a brown belt. We don't know where to take him other than he has to be 18 years old to get black belt." And they said by the time, that's like 6 years, 7 years before. And so they started allowing kids to get, tests for their black belt. And but the problem is when they fought against each other. They didn't have to fight against men.
You set the standard, and then you also set the example. Yeah.
Exactly. Wow. So by the time I was 18 years old, I saw Bruce Lee. I saw Bruce Lee. I think I was 15 or something like that. I saw Bruce Lee. He did the first international. That was in 64. He did the first night, and he did a demonstration. He did this demonstration. He had this guy about 250 pounds with a big metal plate on his chest and holding it, and he did the 4-finger strike. And he put his finger on it, and I was about 5 feet away, sitting down, watching, and he was talking about internal training. My mother used to talk about internal power. I never understood my mother until he started explaining what internal training was. and he hit this plate. This guy goes flying back. 4 feet behind him, there's a chair. He hits the chair. He goes over the chair. I jump up. I say, I want to do that.
Yes.
Because I recognize that internal power is what my mother was telling me all along. I didn't understand it until I saw Bruce Lee explain it his way. So maybe I was a visual, and I saw him do it, and I said, yeah, that's what I want. That's what I want to do. And so I asked my brother, can I spar with him? And my brother said, I don't have enough experience. And I said, okay. So by the time I was 18, I fought everybody. I won all the tournaments. And then in 18 years, by the time I was 18 years old, Elvis Presley had a team. And he got everybody from the United States to actually compete against each other. And he put a team together to go to Europe to represent United States. I was the youngest. I ended up being on that team. Wow. And I was the youngest one to be on that Elvis Presley team. And so we went through Europe. We went to Belgium first. And so we went to Belgium. I just turned 18, so I was able to get on the team and go. Okay. So I went to Belgium, and all of us, everybody was saying, who's going to fight Lemons? And now Lemons is the number one from Europe and Belgium, the toughest, the strongest. And they're all saying, who's going to fight him? And I said, I'll fight him. And they all looked at me, and they said, okay, you fight him, because then they thought I was going to be the sacrifice lamb. They thought, okay, Lemons will beat him, and then we can take the rest. So I went and fought Lemons. I beat Lemons, to the point where my first kick, he dropped. I kicked him so hard. I went over there. I rubbed his leg because I didn't want it to end. I rubbed his leg, get up, and everybody was laughing. The audience was laughing. I rubbed and I got up, and I was back again. Okay, let's go. Get up. Let's go. So I ended up beating him, and so we traveled through Europe, and so that was. So when I came back, I told my brother, now can I spar with him? And he said, you haven't earned the right to spar with Bruce yet. And I said, okay. So then I started boxing. I wanted to box professionally. So I started boxing with Bobby Chacon and Randy Shaw. I started boxing with them professionally, and I was going to be a professional boxer, because in the art, they kept stopping me. When I go up there and attack and this and that, sometimes they wanted to disqualify me for excessive contact, and I said, you know what? So I said, okay. So I started boxing professionally. I said, okay, now I can let go. I can really, this is what it really takes. And then my brother says, you want to do full contact karate? And I said, full contact karate? What's that? Well, what kind of food's that? And they said, no, this is karate to the knockout. And I said, karate to the knockout? And I won't get disqualified? They said, no, it's to the knockout. And I said, but I won't get disqualified. I couldn't get it in my head. So I got to the point where my brother, my youngest brother, Adam, and my brother-in-law, Blinky, and I, we went to Hawaii, and we fought in the World Series of Martial Arts. No rules, no weight divisions, no height. It was just elimination. Saturday, I fought 7 guys. I knocked out 7 people. The first time I knocked them out, I looked to see if I was going to get disqualified, and they raised my hand. I said, all right. They didn't disqualify. Yeah, they didn't disqualify me. So then, on Sunday, I was supposed to fight 4 more times, and 2 guys didn't want no more. So I ended up fighting Bernice White, who was 6'2". He was 190 pounds. He was the Marine champion, 190. I'm 5'6" at 140. I stopped him. After I stopped him in the 3rd round, then it was between my brother-in-law, Blinky, Dana Goodson, which is 6'3", 245 pounds. And so they didn't want me to fight Blinky. They didn't want me to, they want to see David and Goliath. They want to see, they want to see that fight. Right. So I ended up fighting Dana, and I stopped him. Let me put it this way. I grabbed him. I was getting tired. I think in the 3rd round, I was getting so tired. I picked him up, threw him. I jumped up. I stomped on him. I jumped on him, and he started to move and throw me off him. And I was so tired, I spit my mouthpiece, and I bit him on the chest. I bit him in the chest, and he palmed me. He just struck my head, and he got up, And he said, "You bit me." And I said I was getting tired. And I had my teeth marks on his chest. And I ended up beating him. That was my first title. So I came back and I told my brother, now I earned the right to spar with Bruce. And then he died. Then he passed. So I never had a chance, but people will say to me, you would be between you and Bruce, if you two fought, you would win. With I say, hey, as far as I'm concerned, he's not here. He's the best.
Yeah.
He's not here. I would never know. But as far as in my heart, he was the best. I'm okay. There's only one Bruce Lee.
That's right.
But there's only one Benny the Jet. And that was it. So that started. I started going around the world to third world countries to build the sport of kickboxing. The first time I fought in 75, in late 76 or early 76, I fought and everybody was calling me a world champion. And I said, how can I be a world champion? I never fought like this outside of the United States. And they said, oh, you want to fight? So my brother and Howard Hansen started the WKA.
Yep.
And in that, and so they looked and they said, okay, you want to fight Muay Thai? Honest to God, truth, I thought that was his name. I said, I'll fight him. Who heard of Muay Thai? What is that? So they brought two Muay Thai fighters from Thailand, and I think it was Ernest is the one that fought the first. He got knocked out in third. And I was the one, I was obviously the main event. So I came out, and I see this guy doing his, I thought that was pretty cool. I've never seen that.
Yeah.
So I'm in the ring, and he's playing his music, and so I'm moving to his music, and so all the Thai people think I'm making fun of him.
Oh, no.
I had no idea what he was doing, but I'm just, moving to his music, and then he came and simulated shooting an arrow at me, and I smiled and gave him thumbs up, and his eyes were red. He was mad. And so the bell rang. He ran after me. He thigh kicked me. When he thigh kicked me, now, I had Charlie horses before, but when he thigh kicked me, I never had anybody try to break my legs. My eyes bulged out of my head. I said, oh, and I started moving. So the bell rang, and I told my brother, what do I do? And he said, kick him back. And I said, oh, yeah. So I went over, and I kicked him, and he leg checked me. That hurt it worse. I said, oh, my God, that hurt it so bad. So in that, in 75, the word kickboxing was born.
Okay.
Hey, the word kickboxing, where everybody understood what kickboxing. So I took in 78, I wrote or 77, 78, I wrote the first kickboxing book, and I went around the world to every third world country introducing kickboxing. Not Muay Thai, kickboxing to the world. And my book, because in third world countries, they could not train out, so they had to go underground training. And so they used my book as their Bible, as kickboxing.
Amazing.
And then after that, I opened up the Jet Center, which was in 80, was the biggest fighting gym in the world, but it was a mecca of boxers. All the champions came, boxing champions, kickboxing champions. They came from all over the world because they had dormitories. I had full-blown restaurants. It was jacuzzis, saunas, Japanese baths. I mean, it was a wildest gym, and it was a gym where not bees, wasps were all in it, and everybody that came, that was new, everybody was drooling to see. I want him. No matter who came in the gym, everybody was drooling.
Yeah.
So.
Well,
anyway,
I would like to know your definition and opinion of internal power. I mean, you've heard it from Bruce Lee, and then forming your opinion, and then also the combination of your beautifully spirited mother as well.
Well, you know what? Internal power is about your belief system. And your body has better chemical than any pharmacy in the world. And internal power is about putting chemical together to give you the results you like. Some people call it adrenaline rush. Some people say, I'm in the zone. Some people say, well, you know what? In something like that, it's about the I am concept. What do you tell yourself who you are? So I was able to put a formula of chemical in my body to give me exactly what I want when I want it. So I started a meditation, and this meditation is about when people say, how do you get your power and how do you receive it? I said, first of all, I have a workshop within me. that I created, and only my maker and me can enter. And in there is all my gifts. And in that, I have formulas of anything that I want to happen. I can heal my body. I can give anything that I want right there and then. In an instant, that fast. All I have to do is reach down. And to get that kind of program is something like the big monks. They're up in a mountaintop and they're isolated. And when they're isolated, there's no other energy around them. I'm in a concrete jungle. Now, every time I walk down, just like you going through a mall, all these energies are hitting you and you keep on thinking, I came in here feeling good. Now, why do I feel this? It's because you became an open channel and feeling all these other energies, good, bad, and ugly. And then you start to take them on if they're yours. Like, why am I feeling this? And then my question is to you, is that normally how you would think? You said, no. That's not, I don't think that way. It's not my character to think like that. I said, so what makes you think they're yours? Well, they're in my head. I said, but what makes you think they're yours? Just because they're in your head don't mean they're yours. So in that, the programming is even when we're a child, we're programmed from the time that we're in our mother's womb, we're listening to a vibration of our parents. We come out, we recognize that vibration to a parent. Now the parent is programming us all their emotions. Yes. Don't do this, don't do that. All the angers, the fears, and this and that. By the time we're 3, we forgot our gifts, and we've been reprogrammed by our first teachers. Usually our parents. And then from 3 to 5, we're starting to realize, okay, they're saying, no, don't do that, don't do that, don't do that. By the time we're 5, we're reprogrammed by our parents, our first teachers. From 5 to 8, we realize there's a consequence between don't. Didn't I just say not to touch that? We get punished. Yeah. Didn't I say not to go in there? Didn't I say not to talk to him? Didn't I say not to climb that? But we have no experience of it. Yeah, we've been taught it. But we don't have no experience of it, so we want to test it. And so now, by the time we're 8, we tested all that. Now that we tested it at 8 years old to 12, we want to see what we can get away with. We know we go in that room, we're going to get in trouble. I want to see if I can get in and get out without being in trouble. Yeah. I want to see if I can climb that tree without it breaking right at the edge. So we test it because we have no experience, and we're testing to see what we can get away with. By the time we're 12 to 15, hormones are changing. I got a couple of pubical hairs. My voice has changed. I'm a man now. I don't want to be told what to do. And then next time I get in trouble, I'm just a kid. So all these emotions are going. By the time I'm 15, I'm molded as a personality. 15 to 18, next year I know it, I'm telling, I'm saying, oh, I didn't like when my father used to do that to me. And I end up doing it to my friends. Yes. I end up doing the same thing. I said, I hate what my father did to me, and now I'm doing it to you. It's because it's the way we've been programmed. By the time 18 years old, I can't wait to leave because I don't want to be told what to do no more, this and that. I want to go out there, and then I go out there and move in with somebody or whatever. I go to school. Then I realized how much toothpaste costs. I said, wow, it's a jungle out there. I said, it's expensive now because now I got to pay for it all. Yes. And then I start realizing, oh, man, I'm responsible for it. So by the time I'm 21 years old, I'm trying to figure out from 18 to 21, what do I want to do? What do I want to be? Yeah. And so by the time we figure out where we go to school, what we want to really go to college to do whatever, by the time we're 21 years old, we're on our way. And all that emotion is still stuck with us. And for the ones that are still getting angry quickly, is they're reaching back from past tensions. Yes. So when people say, I know you, I said, really? I know everything. I said, no. Even my sister and my brother said, I know you. I said, no, you don't know me. You said, yes, I do. How can I not know you? We grew up together, la, 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 And I said, no, you know what I've done. Yes. But do you really know me? Do you know my deepest fear? Do you know my deepest pain? Do you know? And my brother looked at me and said, man, that's pretty deep, brother. And I said, it is. But I said, you're saying you know me. Do you know that part of me? And he says, I got to think about that one.
Make him think. And I think this is where the realm of the spiritual awakening happens. And I know you're in a big understanding of the spiritual awakening. And you also have been a sensei to Duff McKagan. I know he speaks of you as, you know, allowing him to have that spiritual awakening and going through the traumas that he was going through in life. And I've actually experienced it as well in my life, a huge transformation in 2004, a complete spiritual awakening. And again, when you're talking about being locked in that anger in your past and things like that, I've come through that and used martial arts to help me through that and learn to practice discipline. Has that been your experience as well with the spiritual awakening?
Well, you know what? Actually, in the 60s, in the early 70s, martial arts had the Bushido way. There was a code of honor and so forth. Along the way, when kickboxing started, along the way, it started to change because there was a dividing between martial arts and kickboxers. And that the Bushido way started to get further. And for some reason, it lost the code of honor in the art somewhere. Not everybody, I mean, there are some are still teaching that code of honor. In the martial arts, usually it's about that. But it became to the point in the 80s when then it started to change between grapplers and kickboxers, between, you know, MMA. It started to change and there was a fighting between there. And what happened is it became memorized martial arts. Instead of really knowing the art, it became a memorized martial art. All I have to do is memorize these katas, these wazas, these grabbers, and I can get my black belt. But the problem was that there was no ownership. Ownership means only when somebody threatens you, everything that you hide under your bed in your closet comes up. Hey? And that's the problem. In kickboxing, there's always a threat. In that square jungle, I use that as a metaphor. Hey, what I call a third space. First, your home. Second, your job. Third, your place of training, which I call a third space. Yes. What happens is, memorized martial arts